Welcome back! It's another episode of However, So, we're new to this content creation thing, and apparently our Electoral College stuff was stuff some of you liked to interact with last week.
Yeah, it kind of came out of nowhere, but it's a fun topic to talk about because it is something on which we are genuinely...
foundationally...
diametrically opposed.
So we decided to do our first official However, debate.
Where we argue the continued relevance of the Electoral College.
Yes, and we do not claim to be constitutional scholars, okay?
But we're paid up through the month in Claude tokens, so next best thing.
And coming to an agreement is great, but understandment is the goal. AKA, I disagree, but I can at least steelman your position.
Speaking of which, Jess believes the Electoral College, for all its many
Okay, we get it.
faults, is not only still relevant, but crucial to state sovereignty. Something we recognize when it comes to the Senate, so why wouldn't the same be true of the President? Now, she believes that a national popular vote would erase the say that the states get in electing that person. And, some may say she has a point, but not me, however.
And Jack Brett believes the President of the United States should only be elected by the individual voter in a national popular vote. One person, one vote. We hear it all the time, right? Mm-hmm. A vote in Wyoming should not count 3 times as much as one in California. He says the Senate is more than adequate at representing the states on a national stage. Empirically, we agree. Philosophically, we do not.
So yeah, let's examine both sides of this complex issue and go ahead and mop the floor with her logic.
Yeah, let's all marvel at how Jack Brett gets it so wrong.
And, it's a lot of so's for someone who is actually wrong. You know that you are actually wrong.
There's definitely way more wrong on your side. There's so much wrong.
I'm sorry, all I hear is this wrong person just talking at me like, blah, blah, you're wrong, infinity.
Hi, I'm Jess.
And I'm Jack Brett.
We're neurodivergent besties on either side of political center.
Join us as we inexpertly debate and fact-check our way to some kind of agreeance.
Or at least an understandment.
Let's get into it.
We were talking about something else entirely, and off the cuff, you were like, this is why we should do popular vote. And I was like, I don't actually think. And thus it was born.
The rest is history.
What?
Well, okay then. I would prefer to keep the debate centered around one proposal. Like my position would be the United States Electoral College should be abolished. And you would disagree with that statement, and we would both be talking about the Electoral College as it currently stands.
Yes. Then just to do a check-in, if it changed to proportional, would you be okay with it, or do you still think it should be abolished?
That is a good question. I still think it should be abolished. I would concede that if we absolutely have to have an Electoral College, one where no state is allowed to do winner-take-all, but they must send the number of electors proportional to the actual vote, the popular vote in that state. We made that a law. I think that version of the Electoral College I would be okay with, and I think you would find that preferable even to a national popular vote. So with that asterisk, we could move forward with the question of should the Electoral College be abolished.
So yours would go national popular vote, proportional voting Electoral College, winner-take-all Electoral College.
Yes.
Like boop, boop, boop. Mine is proportional voting Electoral College, winner-take-all Electoral College, national votes super way down here.
Oh, really? You would prefer either flavor of the Electoral College, way over the notion of a national popular vote?
Correct. I don't think that winner-take-all is the correct answer. I think there's lots of problems with winner-take-all, and we'll probably get into those. Mm-hmm. But if I had to choose between winner-take-all and popular vote, give me winner-take-all any day.
Huh, okay.
But for you, between proportional voting and popular vote, you still say popular vote.
Yes, national popular vote, pretty much as far above the other two options as it is below the other two options for you.
Yes.
So yeah, this is something we legit disagree on the relevance of the Electoral College.
I thought we would just do the facts, interpretations, values thing we tried to do for reparations.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think there'll be any daylight between us on the facts. I think there'll be a little bit of daylight between us on the interpretation. I think all of the daylight exists in the values.
In the prescription, as I call it.
Okay, all right. So for facts, here's what I've got. The Electoral College in each state is comprised of the number of House seats it holds plus the number of Senate seats it holds, except for D.C. because it's weird and it's not a state.
It has the same number of electoral votes as the state with the least number of electoral votes, which is 3.
Most of the states, 48 of the states, use the winner-take-all mechanism. And the choice to use that mechanism is the states. It's not like in the Constitution or anything saying that you have to do that. This is just a choice the states have made. Only Maine and Nebraska do it differently, I believe. The presidency is an indivisible office. It's just the one person plus the understudy they choose. The presidency has been won without the popular vote 5 times in our 250-year history, 2 within our lifetime, and both of those skewed to the right. The data shows campaign attention does tend to concentrate in whichever 5 to 10 states aren't reliably red or blue, and they more or less skip all the other ones. Which states are swing states changes over time. Ohio and Florida 20 years ago were swing states, now they're not. And I think if you do it on like a 3-point margin, 2008 and 2024 have 0 overlap in which were swing states. So like the swing states migrate with the people. And then lastly, for me, I have abolishing the Electoral College needs a constitutional amendment to do it outright. The workaround currently gaining traction is the National Popular Vote Compact, which, for anyone who doesn't know about that, is an agreement among the states to give all their electors to whoever wins the national popular vote, but it only switches on once 270 electoral votes worth of states have joined, which hasn't happened yet.
Interesting. Yeah, I hadn't known that was an initiative.
It is, and it's horrifying.
I see. Well, yeah, I agree with all of those facts. What is your interpretation of those facts?
I read the Electoral College as a way to give the states a say in who is running the executive branch in the same way they get a say in Congress. Congress you can easily divvy up, the executive you can't. It is sans divvy.
Sans divvy.
How do you interpret the Electoral College, Jack Brett?
So I see it as something that may have had a purpose at one time. My interpretation of the Electoral College, and I'm going into the sort of flawed beginnings of it, but I think it's important to understand, and I've learned a lot about it in preparation for this, so which I think is really interesting. One of the concerns was like larger states having a level of political influence relative to their smaller neighbors that could allow them to steamroll them, vote in policy that would be very disadvantageous to the smaller states. In those days, there was a handful of larger states, Virginia, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania, that kind of formed the sort of bad boys on the block that could have muscled policy against their smaller counterparts. And one of the concerns is that the states were fragmented, information didn't travel nearly as fast, and it was unreasonable to expect that information about a certain presidential candidate could make it to every individual within that state, that it needed to for the popular vote to mean anything. Like it would make more sense in those days to have each state have a set of delegates, of just delegated representatives whose job it is to keep up with politics, to hear, to read about the latest from New York and Washington, to override the decision of the populace if need be. Like if they had chosen someone with ill qualifications, it would be up to the educated elites of each state to override that decision and cast their votes for who they actually thought was the most qualified choice. Another reason behind the inception of the Electoral College at the Constitutional Convention was a compromise between slave and free states, because like the North states wanted enslaved people to count towards how much taxes the slave states had to pay into the federal pot, but didn't want slaves to count toward like their electoral power. And southern states wanted the opposite. So the compromise that they reached, that a black person, an enslaved person, was worth 3/5 in both cases. And so like adopting the Electoral College gave slave states more power than they would otherwise have with a direct popular vote. And so that's the birth of the Electoral College. That's kind of the real meat and potatoes of how it came about in the Constitutional Convention. I would point out that information travels a lot faster now. Like the whole we need to have designated electors because we can't expect a message from Washington to get out to all potential voters at once. And now, that can happen in a nanosecond, obviously. The speed of information is no longer a concern. More people are educated. So yeah, I think there's a reason why we can trust the results of a presidential election in the hands of just the voting population at large, rather than having it filtered through a set of electors. And slavery has since been abolished. So there's another reason why I think that the Electoral College is due for a review, by which I mean should be blown up and never revisited.
And never revisited ever again. Okay, so here's what I will say. Of all the reasons that you give for the creation of the Electoral College, you have left out the most important one, and that's the one that I hang all of my argument on. So I concede all of the other things. We get information lickety-split, although what that information is like...
Separate issue. Totally
separate issue.
Yeah.
But slavery is not a thing anymore. All of those little reasons that you mentioned, absolutely no need for that anymore. Totally understandable. The one big, super main reason is still important, in my opinion. And that is that the states get a say. A say. Not an equal say, not a significant larger proportion say, just a say. In a national popular vote, they don't.
That states get a say. I mean, I think there's a basis for states having more weight in the Senate. I don't think though that same logic translates to electing the president. When we think about the importance of the state as a polity, the things that really make that relevant, that like where a state would be concerned about defending itself against other states, it's relevant and it makes sense for a state to be considered an important political entity in those decisions. But when it comes to choosing the president, I think it makes much more sense to treat every voter within that state as the important political entity.
So you don't see the state as an important entity in voting specifically for the executive branch. You do, though, for the legislature.
Correct. I think when it comes to state sovereignty, I think you have helped me to appreciate the importance of the state as an important polity in American government. I don't think that the logic behind each state having the same amount of senators lends itself to choosing the president.
We get it in the Senate, we get it in the judiciary by having to confirm. We should get a check in the executive as well. And by we, I mean the states.
Well...
And by states, I mean of the United. Because that's wondering. What it is, right? They are the United States of America. And states came first. States were the OG, baby. They created the federal government.
But like your argument that the state as an entity has a say at the state level, I guess that is where I still am not getting it.
So you don't see the reason why they should get a say in the executive branch.
And I, not only that, but every conversation I listen back to, I just do not like that wording. That like I don't see why it's important. Like
You don't see why I think it's important. Does that help the reframe?
That does help a lot, yes.
Okay, good. You don't see why I think it's important that the state get a say in the election of the executive branch.
Correct.
Congress makes the laws, but the executive enforces it. So they can, however fairly or unfairly they want, dole out those responsibilities because the states are conscripted to carry out whatever it is. And I think that's enough power over the states as an entity for them to be able to have a seat at that table.
So, like, the president doesn't make these laws, but the executive branch enforces the laws and could enforce them unfairly.
Yeah, the president could choke off whatever federal funds, disaster relief, slap a tariff on whatever your state's export is. They can pick and choose if federal law gets enforced in your state. Like, there's any number of ways that the executive branch can reach out and restrict you as an entity. And because of that, it's important that the state has its own representative vote in some way. In the Electoral College, the number of electoral votes includes the 2 from the Senate, and those are specifically for the state. Everybody gets 2 in the Senate. They're supposed to be equal members of this union. That's how the states are represented in the Electoral College, and they would not be in a national popular vote.
Yeah, I guess that still makes voters in a lower population state, count. Like as if they had more votes in the federal government than people from larger states.
I understand that argument. I disagree that that's how it should be mathed. Because that's how the state is represented, by the 2 senators that get added to the electoral votes.
I don't see it as giving the state more of a say in choosing the elector. It just gives the voters within that state, more of a say. And I don't think that as a member of a higher population state, my vote should count any less than someone from a low population state. Like, our concerns are different, but one is not more important than the other, as I see it.
I understand the arithmetic of someone's vote counting in Wyoming counts more than someone in California. I understand the arithmetic. And I think that is the cost of allowing the state to have a voice that I'm okay with, and you are not.
I guess I just don't see where the state having a voice comes into play.
Well, like Iowa's corn or something, if he put a tariff on corn, that fucks over Iowa considerably.
So I would argue that, like, if there's a president who is campaigning on something that's going to be bad for Iowa farming, Iowa being composed of Iowans who are farmers, a lot of them probably concerned with these policies, they will get more of their friends out to vote. And I feel like that is more a pure form of democracy happening.
But it's not Iowans, it's Iowa that's affected. Iowa as a state is concerned about farming way more than the majority of the people in Iowa, because that is Iowa's economic output. They're their own semi-sovereign territories. And something that can be overridden should get a seat at the table where the overriding happens.
I think that the Electoral College effectively does 2 things. It disenfranchises the minority party of any safely red or blue state. It makes it so a presidential candidate only has to visit these 7 or so swing states and can effectively ignore the others, and can, more importantly, can sort of cater his or her message to just those swing states. I think that a presidential campaign should not only have to dance for these 7 states' votes. The fact that the Electoral College exists exacerbates that, and we should take as many steps away from that as we can.
See, I think that's a bug in the winner-take-all system specifically, and not the Electoral College as a whole. I do concede that the winner-take-all system create swing states. I don't concede that the Electoral College does.
All right, and I'll buy that. So that is not an area of disagreement. So I think the only pushback I would have to your whole statement on that is that you wouldn't want it to be a federal law, because I think,
Yes.
I mean, I know you like have a knee-jerk reaction to the very concept of, you know, just like a federal law that applies to states, that like changes the way states have to operate.
Well, you can't just pass a law. It has to be a constitutional amendment or the compact that they're trying to do right now.
Okay, so like I think we're arguing semantics then. Like, yeah, I concede that if there's no way to make it a law without changing the Constitution, then yeah, it would have to be an amendment, but same result, right? It happens at every state at one time.
Yes, and if it was a constitutional amendment, that means that 2/3 of the states voted in favor of doing this, and so that's what the states decided. One of the reasons why states won't adopt a proportional voting system outright is because that immediately lowers the state's influence. And if they're going to do it by themselves, then they're just giving up their power and letting everybody else keep theirs. But if we got them all to do it together, that would do it. It could be quite similar to the National Popular Vote Compact and just be the proportional voting compact. So I'll accept a constitutional amendment, but I will also accept a compact.
But the Wyoming voter's vote would still count like 3 times or so more than the Californians' vote.
My whole principle rests on the fact that the state should get a say. That winner take all is bad, but that a national popular vote is absolutely terrible because there's too many people in the United States to let that be the deciding factor. Democracy is better the smaller the group.
I don't see why democracy would not scale up infinitely. I think that's what I need explained, is why democracy works at the level of a state but not at the level of a country.
I don't think democracy fails at that level. I think it works exactly as it's designed. I just think it's a poor design for that many people.
Interesting.
340 million people. There are too many diverse ways of life and thinking across the country for a simple 51% majority to be the solution.
Isn't that already the case? Like that range of diversity already exists, but I don't think that they should be reduced to a particular culture, because a diversity of cultures exists within each state, and I think that abolishing the Electoral College would nurture that.
Sure, and honestly, by culture or even community, I don't necessarily mean like people who like football or whatever. Like, I mean the things that are structurally in place in each state that cannot move. People could move and their cultures move with them. I more mean the stuff locked into the state that doesn't move, that the state definitely should have say over. Water rights and shit like that.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we only disagree that concept should apply to the choosing the executive as well. I think it should be limited to the Senate power. I see a national popular vote as enfranchising a lot more people than whatever deleterious effect you feel it might have in states' voice in the presidential election.
See, and I think even just based on that one definition of affecting more people, that a national popular vote doesn't do that, because the candidates, you don't like when the candidates go to swing states, but in a national popular vote, they're not going to go anywhere rural ever.
So in America, like the 100 cities with the highest populations actually comprise only about 20% of voters. And the same is true of, like, if you add up all the rural areas, like truly rural areas in America, that adds up to about the same number of voters, about 20%. And so that means that like the other 60% live somewhere in the middle. Their distribution of visits to rural versus urban areas would not change with or without the Electoral College. There is no way any candidate could win the presidency without visiting their fair share of rural areas and like mid-sized cities as well.
I do see your point, I still worry that city life and the way cities like to run would be choosing who the president is in a national popular vote, and I don't like that.
Sorry, why do you think that cities would have like a disproportionate say in a national popular vote?
I don't know why I'd still worry. Maybe that's just because of my bubble.
I'm starting to think that maybe this is a conclusion in search of a theory.
Cities running everything. I dropped that argument.
Okay.
I concede.
Okay, good.
Because I need to hone that part a little bit better. I think where we differ in the values is that you're focused on the people, I'm focused on the people and the community. I think that's just a difference of values. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we agree that is our area of disagreement, is that the fact that a Wyoming vote counts 3 times a California vote is an unfortunate consequence of this system that rewards states' sovereignty in presidential elections, necessary evil, nature of the beast, or whatever.
Yes, I think because the executive still has power over the state, they should get a say in who the executive is. And I think that's an important part. That was fun!
Yeah, good debate.
I mean, you're wrong.
I mean, I know you are, but what am I?
But we have come to an understandment, I believe.
Understandment!
Which is always the goal, right?
Yeah. If we can't have agreements, at least we can get an understandment.
Indeed. One thing I would like to know what your solution, if you have one, for the Electoral College becoming a national popular vote. In the case of super thin margins needing to be recounted, how do you propose to recount all 50 states?
I guess in the unlikely event of this super thin margin, instead of triggering that process in only one state, it would trigger that process in every state.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It would have to trigger in every state, but there's no
there's
national but there's no national mechanism. There's no like national recount authority. There's 50 different rule books. There's no, elective commission thing for the nation. It would have to be created, I guess.
Well, there are already recount mechanisms in each state because it happens in each state, like in elections. I mean, like everyone has a contingency plan for someone contests an election. We just do that for every state in the event that we don't know where the discrepancy may have come from.
Right, but a lot of times it's triggered by litigation. Like the person is contesting, so they are doing a legal, we're going to court over this situation. And so you'd be flooding the entire country with litigation across a shit ton of districts all at one time. The person who lost has recourse to legally force everyone else to do it all again.
Do you think the inconvenience of every state having to do that is a reason to just scrap the whole idea of giving everybody equal voice in deciding?
No, I think all the reasons I said earlier are good enough. I'm just adding to the file.
I mean, yeah, I think it's like such a small price to pay as I see it for an equal distribution of democracy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's your cost that you're willing.
Yeah.
Oh, in my prep for this, I found out that in 2024, it was something like 115,000 votes, and Kamala would have won the 270, but not the popular. They were so close in 3 states that had there just been a little bit more on her side, and the math works out to like 115,000 across those 3 states, then because of the winner-take-all system, those electoral votes would have went to her, and she would have won the presidency with 270, but lost the popular vote. That would have been fucking fascinating. Oh my God. If Kamala Harris had won the presidency but not the popular vote, here's what I'm mad about. Democrats would not be anywhere near killing the Electoral College.
You think?
I think, yeah. I do think there would be people on the right who are like, oh, we gotta get rid of the Electoral College, but not nearly as many as there are Democrats right now yelling to get rid of it.
Huh. Well, I still wish that had happened instead of what did.
Sure, fair enough. Totally understand.
And I would still be for dissolving the Electoral College. So
I know you would, because that is your principles. Have you heard of the DSA?
Department of Security Administration? No, I don't know.
Great guess. Totally
What's
wrong.
the DSA?
The Democratic Socialists of America. One of the things that they want to do is to completely get rid of the Senate entirely.
Okay, I think well, Scott Galloway's statement was so many Fox News viewers just started touching themselves when they heard this interview. This is this is just all the scary villain Democratic Socialist.
They're saying the quiet part out loud, and we're going, see? No!
I think even most folks on the left, even most moderates, are equally horrified by most of that. It's not exactly the quiet part; it's the holy shit! Don't even touch that part.
Well, the problem is the loudest people on either side of the aisle are the ones getting the attention, and so of course they're the enemy. And holy crap, why would you even think that? Because shit like this doesn't get out.
Yeah. Which is why I mostly advocate for abolishing the whole two-party system, because, we'd prefer to live in a system where we did not have to own that. We weren't considered the same, monolithic school of thought, because there are multiple parties. There's a range of political belief that we can all choose.
Samesies. So one thing I do want to concede that you didn't even bring up, that actually somebody in our comment section brought up.
Ooh. This is part of the hubbub you wanted to share with me?
This is some of the hubbub, yes. Dylan 189189.
Good guy, strong guy.
Alerted us to the fact that the House of Representatives cap is also not representative in the way that it should be. I looked into it, and he's right. They capped it in 1929, and the reason it was capped was specifically so that cities couldn't overrule smaller places. But if you were to actually give everybody the representation they should, according to the Constitution, there would be 11,000 representatives in the House of Representatives.
That's a lot of elections to, shovel.
That's
money
way
into.
too. That's too much, though. That's chaos. That's chaos. Yeah. But I looked it up, and there are something called a cube root rule, and you just take the cube of however many people are there, or something like that. Huh. And so then that would put it around 700-ish in the House instead of 400 and whatever.
I didn't know that wasn't already proportional.
Yeah, I thought it was proportional, and it is in a way, but it's just that who gets which votes of the 430 whatever. That's the only amount that is available to get, but it's not directly proportional or representative like it's supposed to be. So thank you, Dylan 189189, for pointing me in that direction. That is a thing I didn't know about, and yeah, that's not right. That should be fixed.
Learn new things every day. Yeah, thanks for teaching me that too, Dylan 189189.
So Hubub related things. It's really interesting because and I asked Claude to look into this. I was like, hey Claude, here's where we're at on day number whatever. These are all the metrics. What do you think? And Claude's like, this is fucking weird. Because apparently it isn't normal to have more comments than likes.
Huh.
And we do.
Wow.
Ooh, I haven't seen this one, and this one looks good. I keep getting y'all's videos on my feed, and I really, really do like these discussions. It's very rare to see them this calm and rigorous, but in addition to the ladies' argument, I also want to add 2 arguments that I like to pose when I hear someone ask this question. Okay, Let's go, London underscore A20.
All ears.
I think when asking such a question, there's an implicit assumption that it's acceptable for the federal government to be wielded as a rule-making tool by whoever pulled it out of the stone, needing to show little deference to the losers, and I don't think that's warranted. It's quite frankly undemocratic because of the point of federalism. If California believes they have a policy that's successful, then they owe it to me to respect my wishes as a Tennessean and convince me that it works rather than cram it down upon me paternalistically. But the benefits of states and echoing them through the federal government's construction means more degrees of freedom for how people express themselves politically. And there's only one federal government and can only hold one position on a matter at a time. Well said, London. I agree. I like, though, that we've reached a second person officially in this manner that we know of, because they said, I keep getting y'all's videos on my feed and I really, really do like these discussions.
Yeah.
I know there was somebody who basically said, that dumb bitch or something like that.
Oh.
But somebody called you a moron as well.
I kind of want to hear it.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it because it's funny. Oh, it's probably in the hidden comments. Let me go down there.
Oh, the ones that might affect us emotionally.
This guy is a complete idiot. He looks like he has 2 brain cells, but is intentionally drowning both of them in stupidity. The Constitution designed the government to be representative for all people and built in a mechanism to ensure that all people have equal say in the government. This guy perfectly encapsulates the typical smooth brain reaction of typical lefty behavior. Respond based on emotions, not logic and reason. 2 brain cells, Jack Brett, and they're drowning in stupidity.
He or she is certainly entitled to their opinion. You nailed it. I do consider myself to be in a sort of urban Chicago bubble, and part of why we started this channel and this whole format of discussion is to be exposed to a wider range of viewpoints. Mm-hmm. I do drink my fair share of whiskey, which has been known to kill brain cells. I'm not sure exactly how many I have left, but I will go with this person's estimate. And I do continue to drown them through the course of conversation. So, yeah.
I think the point is that we come to these arguments in good faith, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Huzzah! Understandment.
Best we could have hoped for, understandment. Yes. But hey, we want to hear more from you.
Yeah. What are the holes in our arguments? What arguments didn't we think of?
However, point is you're wrong.
Point is you're wrong. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. And hey, if you want to check out the Unlimited Tangents version of our conversation, link is in the description.
Yes, and if you want to see us bring some steel to a particular topic, let us know in the comments.
If Barnum and Bailey had a touring exhibit of come witness the wrongest person who ever engaged in Electoral College debate, I think you would be invited to participate in that freak show. Sorry.
If someone had a Geiger counter and they were in and amongst your wrongness, the setting on it would bounce out of the mechanism entirely and shoot into space because of how wrong you are.
Oh, I mean, I just don't think we are evolutionarily capable of comprehending your wrongness. I mean, the human species tends to think of dangers, in the bushes over there, but thinking on a cosmic scale is what we would need to do to comprehend just the wrongness of Jessica on the subject of the Electoral College.
It's you think you're looking at your wrongness with a microscope, but you're gonna need a telescope to see how ginormous your wrongness is.
How many wrong people does it take to lose a debate? Just one. It's you.
Yeah, I feel like Einstein can't do the math on your wrongness. It's too complex. It's too enormous. It's outside this universe.
Wrong person says what?